So yeah, my name is Shai-Rose Walji, and I'm with UNHCR Canada. I have been there for just about 4 years, and I work in our donor acquisition. So today I wanted to kind of take you through a little bit more of like how we use engaging networks and some of the different tools that we use, and how it helps kind of personalize your efforts a lot more when you're fundraising. So I think quite a few presentations have already touched upon this about the multi-channel approach and just making sure that you're not just doing one thing. Like you're not just doing digital, you're doing multiple things, and you're kind of customizing your creative based on your audience, because the same creative is not going to work everywhere. So first, to just get your donors in, there's numerous ways to do it. And so there's the first thing is digital ads that come into play. So there's just different, like you can use Facebook, you can use display ads, you can use search. There's multiple different ways, and you can see that there's multiple different creative that we are going out with, and a lot of different fund codes that we call it. So it's a lot of different country operations that we work in. And so to me, we are kind of throwing a lot of things out there. We're like, let's see what sticks and hope that someone comes in. But then once we know that, maybe they've come through the Afghanistan ad, we know they're more interested in that. And it's something that we will take and try to help them down the line to kind of cater that approach. DRTV is another big thing. TV is an older audience, we want to say, but it does really well for us. I would say make sure you have attribution models that helps you kind of figure out to really tell like if someone's like if they're making a gift, and if you can attribute it back to the DRTV channels. The one thing too, we actually shut off face-to-face a few years ago, and we actually found DRTV helped us kind of get a lot more monthly donors in, and also the lifetime value was a lot higher than we did see for face-to-face. Print ads is another way to get donors in, so you can buy lists, and it's an opportunity to talk a lot more about your work. It's a lot more wordier than a digital ad will ever be, but it's a way to educate donors and get them to really understand your work before they commit to your cause. And then we also use press ads really once in a while, but it's more for emergency-based creative, emergency response, because you can tie in really well with like the ad and the article next to it. Advocacy. So this is another way to get also people into your mix. So we have cities with refugees. So it's a lot of different cities who have kind of pledged to support refugees, and you can kind of pick. So I picked Guelph because that's where I'm from, and so you can kind of get even more detailed information there about what your city is doing. There's other things that we did. We did COVID vaccines for refugees when the vaccines were coming out, to kind of say that everyone should have the right to access this. And the other thing was our cookbook. So Nadia and Hannah, our old colleagues here, actually did the cookbook for us, and it was the most tangible digital thing that we had ever produced. If you gave us your name, you got a cookbook. So then it was something, and then there was a whole lead gen kind of process after the fact. And the last thing I'll talk about of getting your supporters in is subscribers. It's an easy thing. People go to your website, they go to make it easy for them to subscribe to your newsletter. It's their way of raising their hand to say that they're interested in your content, and they want to hear from you, and then eventually they might become a donor. And then I just wanted to talk about Castle here quickly. So I'm not gonna say like the legalness of Castle, but it's the Canada's anti-spam legislation. And to me, it's a very easy way to kind of make sure you're compliant. Like you basically just need to tell them what you're doing. So you're saying why you're subscribing. You're giving them an unsubscribe statement. You're giving them 2 contact methods, and then you're giving the privacy policy. And that's all you really need to do to be compliant. So I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? Because then you can kind of contact your donors down the line, or supporters, sorry. So now that you have all these donors and supporters, what are you gonna do to thank them and communicate them going forward? So you think I might be going to donor personas, but I'm not gonna be doing that today. That's something we don't really do. But to me, it's something, you already know quite a bit about a donor. Like when you click on an ad or if you donate, there's quite a bit of information you already know about this donor, so use that. So some things are like the channel acquired, that they came through print, you know what they came through. If they made a monthly gift or they made a one-time gift. you know the amount of the gift, you know their interest in their fund or what creative that they came through in, and then you know their language preferences. So to me, I think you already have enough information to start targeting them and speaking to them differently. I'm probably one of those people that I think, like Sam was saying about detailed level tracking, that we have a crazy amount of tracking that we do in engaging networks. It's not a pretty screenshot, but basically any page that we have, we make sure we track every single link separately, and you can decide whatever way you're doing your tracking. But to me, like, we can see that there's just, they came through display, they came through search, there's different fund codes that they came through, and we know the year that they came to because we append that to the history. So it really helps us down the line when we're trying to segment our data. We're like, hey, let's only pull the 2022 donors into this mix. So personalizing as you go. So this is an example of one of our donation pages. So it's talking about Yemen here, and then the thank you email that you get immediately, what you build in engaging networks. Kind of just, you can start with a personalization. So I know like first name is like the most basic personalization that we all think about, and like it's something like do it, but that's not personalization. So it's like, but doing the basics of first name, calling out thank you for donating to Yemen, putting a blurb about Yemen in that donation page. So it's like if you have a lot of different funds that you're focusing on, then really make sure that you're kind of being a bit specific right away and you're not being as like so generic. You can call your donor. So within the first month of any new donor joining us, there is a welcome call that they will be pulled into. And there's in the scripting that we also have call outs of what they gave to, what the amount was, and then based on what that gift was, we try to upsell them. But it is having all that information there right away, but it's thanking them and like calling them right away. And we use an agency for that. We don't do it ourselves. Then a thank you mail. So then also within the first month-ish, depending on the data flow, you'll be getting a welcome pack in the mail. And so there's customized, there's like personalized looking letters in there. There's more information about like who we are, what we do. And then there's also, what was I gonna try to flag here? Don't remember what I was gonna talk about. But there is different, there's also, yeah, in the letter, there's also, again, another call out of what the specific fund was that the person gave to, and it's like a thank you. And it's just, so it's good too that every month we're updating those kind of situations. Marketing automation. So this is something else that we use in engaging networks. I think you've probably seen the marketing automation tools where you can build, and it's very easy of like drag and drop of like the blue, you kind of put in a new email, you can say wait a week, wait whatever weeks, and then you send a whole series of emails. And then we actually exclude any new donor from getting our regular appeals during this time so that they're only getting communicated with one consistent message for a few weeks. So we have different ones for monthly donors, for OTG donors, and for our subscribers. And then I wanted to do some just email examples of what we do. So this is actually, last year for the Ukraine emergency, we got an influx of donors, and we didn't know anything about them. So we immediately changed our OTG email once. You can just go there and change it. And we've had a survey that we added in because we really wanted to know more about these donors and understand why they were giving to us. And so it's a great way to make donors even feel like you're asking them for their feedback, their information. And sometimes if there is information that, you know, like even their contact information was incorrect, they do tell us there and we go update it. Then our monthly donors sometimes get this 72 hours. It's more about the work that we do. It's telling them what we do in an emergency-based situations. For monthly donors, there's a Between Lives series. So it's a 7-part, I believe, webinar series about a different refugee woman. And so that's kind of exclusive content that we're giving to them. And then we kind of end with a more thank you and just other ways that they can give that are not financial. So communicating with donors is a fine balance. I think you always want to do appeal emails. That's something that I know our team struggles with. We're like, money, 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 but you have to do a lot of stewardship emails as well. You have to kind of mix that in, so make sure you do that. You have to keep donors updated, let them know what their gifts are doing. You can educate them on new topics. So for us, like the Ukraine donors are a perfect example of that. We want to make sure, like, we're not just sending Ukraine donors Ukraine content. We're telling them we're also working in Syria, we're also working in Afghanistan, and it's letting them know about the different work that we do so that they become supporters of the whole cause, not just one specific area. And then email is a super cost-effective way to communicate with their donors regularly. We definitely try for once a week, maybe twice a week, and it's just a way to communicate with your donors frequently. This might be changing now based on the last presentation, but we built email templates with Zuri Group. They helped us create. We're never going to send an email that's this big, but it's a big template that we've created, and kind of it's a drag and drop feature that allows us to kind of customize the way we're going to be sending the email. To me, it's a great feature too because different team members will work on this, and everyone uses the same template, so no one has to use HTML, no one has to change anything. Our emails will always look consistent and clean. So multi-channel integration, personalization go hand in hand. So direct mail appeals. So this is where now that you become a donor, we're going to start communicating with you in a lot of different ways. Just because you gave on direct mail doesn't mean that we're only going to communicate with you with direct mail. We're going to communicate with you on multiple channels, but sometimes when there's budget constraints, we might cut people and be like, well, okay, we know that they always give to direct mail, so maybe we can't afford to send everyone this piece right now. But that's the only way that we kind of exclude people. But in here too, like you'll see the magenta is like, that's again, variable content that we'll speak to. And there's people are pulled in for different ask amounts, but based on their giving history. SMS integration, so this is not the same appeal, but this was a different one, but it's something that we're starting to do a lot more. I would say don't do it for every appeal that you do because that's a lot in my opinion. But it's something the times of year, like at the end of the year last year, we were doing a underfunded emergencies, so we kind of timed the text message to go at the same time as the email appeals. Digital retargeting. So this is also another way of, right now we have whatever creative we have in market. We want people who are already our donors to only get that creative right now. We don't want to be throwing every single creative at them right now because we know what the theme is that we're going to be going with right now. So we want to make sure their emails are the same, their DMs are the same, and their digital retargeting is the same. So right now we're using Google, only until August, until that gets deprecated, and then Facebook as well. For email communications, so again here, there's different personalization, like the winter appeal is like, it looks very similar to what they received in the mail. There's references to that we do pre-emails that you may be receiving this in the mail soon. We're letting people know. Sometimes our pre-email is actually a 101 before we actually get into the appeal series. And then also the donor impact reports very much focus on what appeals and they've given to in the past, so that I think like the next slide, yeah, it does show that, where it's just like the queries that we build and the tracking that we're very specific about. We'll have like 8 emails going out for the same email, but it just has different variables. But maybe I'm going to talk to Sam to see how we can do that into one email instead of doing multiple emails like that going forward. And then also testing is a great way to do it too. So then Engaging Networks has also really good features where you can kind of even test like 10% of the file, see what works best with a subject line, and then like a few hours later send it to rest of your donors. Another way we do personalization, so there's the next suggested gift, and it's based on a donor's giving history. So you can do, right now in Engaging Networks, you have the ability to there's a history of all the donations someone has made online, but we want to like combine that with our offline data because a lot of people do give offline. So we actually have a weekly upload that we put in the amount of all their gifts, and then we use that to do the next suggested gift on Engaging Networks. So when we send an email, we'll either, depending on their giving history, we'll ask them for a percentage more, or we'll ask them for incremental dollars more. And so then that follows through. So in the email copy, you basically put in a little content there, and it'll say the value that you're asking them for, and then when they click on the donation page, it will have all those values. So we're able to actually only have to create one donation page for all the different segments that we're sending to. And then queries, also this was more of a note of just the different opt-ins and opt-outs that we do. So sometimes when we're sending appeals, we exclude people who are monthly donors because we don't want to be asking them for extra additional gifts that frequently. And then this is just a screenshot of some KPIs, but we don't have to do that. So listen to your donors and help them communicate with you better. We also worked with Zuri Group for this one. They helped us kind of manage your preferences and how to unsubscribe, because we didn't want people unsubscribing from everything. So now we kind of give them the option of, do you want to unsubscribe from emergency emails or monthly emails or whatever it is. So we want to try to be able to add a growing list of this here too, so that we can people don't have to unsubscribe from everything. And then we also created the hub with Yibu Digital's help. So this is also a place where a donor can go in and manage their own preferences. And so this has actually been a really big time saver for our donor care team, because people can come here and do the work themselves. Like if they want to update their address, they can go into this and they can fill it out. If they want to give an additional gift, they can do that here. If they want to change their monthly gifts, they can. But if they want to cancel their monthly gift, we have a note to please call us, because then we will try to save it. And then the other cool feature is that they can also download their tax receipt, and then they can see every single page that they've given to, and then there's an update about that country situation on that page. That's that. And then just other ways that we can engage with donors. So these aren't necessarily personalization, but I think it's being able to offer people different methods. So we have Shop, which is our e-commerce page. And we do find that there are specific donors that only give to this. So sometimes if we don't want to be sending an email to our full file for Mother's Day, then we're only going to be sending it to people who have actually given to Shop in the past, because we know that's the way they like to give. There's peer-to-peer, so that's another tool that we've been using. And also during the Ukraine emergency, we had the BC Vietnamese community kind of run their own fundraiser, and they raised over $140,000. And so to me, it's something that we don't do enough of, but it's a great way to really engage with your donors, because they want to be advocates for your cause. And so it's how do you help them help you? And then finally, it's surveys and quizzes. So these are great ways, again, stewardship kind of appeals, not appeals, stewardship emails. And so soliciting donors for their feedback, understanding what's important to them to help you communicate with them further down the line. And then quizzes that are just ways for them to test their knowledge and just kind of interact with you and engage with you in a different way. And then that's it.
I think UNHCR definitely continues to be a client that is trying to push and try a lot of the new stuff that we roll out with, using the hub and all those kind of things, which is always really exciting to see. Yeah. So we have a whole bunch of questions. Again, you can use the Slido app if you want to get something in here. So can you share more about how you calculate upsell amounts?
Yes. Don't know the exact amounts, but if it's, I think we do a percentage model for most of ours. So it's usually 10% is what we do, and then it rounds it up. But then it's doing it for I think it's 10 to 15% for more lower ask amounts. But then when you get into the higher gift amounts, it's actually a lower percentage, because we don't want to be
have some flexibility there, right? Yeah. So on the same thing, have you tested if percent or a straight dollar amount is the most effective when using next suggested gift features?
We have not tested that. So we did roll it out, and we're just we're assuming it works. But the only thing that so that's a good way to test it. But we just find that when we have tested doing NSG versus not, and the results have been phenomenally better.
For NSG?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's actually one of those things where we've been talking internally how to increase adoption of next suggested gifts because almost nobody uses it, which is really frustrating because it's kind of free money just sitting there on the table for most people. And so we're actually thinking about how can we default more people when we're building out their accounts to just be like, hey, we set up a very basic next suggested gift that you can just kind of click and add on because we think it would lead to better adoption rates for folks because we think it's a really nice tool that sits there, but it doesn't end up getting used, unfortunately. Can next suggest gift info be used for direct mail purposes?
Yes,
Yes.
for sure. And especially because we're bringing in our offline data, which is mostly direct mail, we're using a lot of that information for it. So it's kind of a two and two approach. And then that gets uploaded to our CRM, and then that gets used for CRM. So it's a rotating cycle for us.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the best approach when it comes to it is, I think a lot of people, they're just like, oh, well, like, where should we start for our digital ask when it comes to next suggested gifts or upsells? Your direct marketing folks have probably been thinking about this. There's probably someone on your team, on the direct marketing team, who thinks about this every day of their entire lives. And it is their main KPI of how can we tweak these little numbers, right, to increase a bit more value. Just go talk to that person and take whatever they do. It might not be perfect for your digital, but it's a great place to start, and then you can iterate and iterate and iterate. That's the thing you can do better on the digital side, right? You can just test so much more quickly than the direct mail folks can.
Same, and like what we did, even just for donation pages with not next suggested gift, but for like our homepage button, we tried. We did donation page testing, like we did ask amount testing there, and so we were using Optimizing, I believe, and it was just a way for us to quickly kind of figure out the asterisk ways and like up or down, and like there was just different ways that we tested that we were able to tell like our other teams. Yeah.
Set a hypothesis, set a sample population, run it, see what you get, move on. Like it doesn't, it's not a failure if it doesn't work, that you've just learned, oh, that didn't work and we're gonna try something else. Perfectly reasonable. So regarding your subscription management and Castle, do you include SMS in the same opt-in or do you handle SMS opt-in separately? Separately. We would also, as a technical partner, tell you to do it separately, 100%. Can you tell us a bit more how you, we already did that one. Welcome emails. You also mentioned the emails are sent over a couple of weeks. How many emails is too much or too less? It depends.
It depends. I'd say 3 to 5 is your welcome series. One email is a little too quick. It's not enough there. So it depends on our donor type. I think we have 3 for some, 5 for some. And I think it's from for monthly donors, we want to just tell them the story, right? And there's a lot more feel-good content that we have. And so and we don't want to be sending them appeals anytime soon.
Right.
So we're like, we still want to communicate with them. So let's do this. So that's why I think 5 works best there. And then for their OTGs, so one-time gifts, I think we do less there because we actually do want them to get into our appeals quicker.
Right. Yeah. And the way that I would think about it is you can almost back into your answer. So if you know you want your welcome series to be, let's say 3 weeks long, and you know that in a standard 3-week, if you were just a part of the normal email campaigning, over 3 weeks, if that person would get 5 emails over 3 weeks, there's your answer, right? You want your welcome series to prepare that person for the volume of email they're going to be getting from you regularly, right? So if you normally send things every other week, then that's kind of the cadence they're gonna be in. Your welcome series might want to closely reflect that. It shouldn't be an email every single day because then you're priming them to expect an email every day from you, right? So I think you can look at historically what you kind of do, and it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1 match, but it shouldn't be very drastic where your welcome series is a whole lot different than that because you want to get them ready for what you're doing.
That's very smart. And then you also don't want them to unsubscribe in your welcome series, right? That defeats the purpose.
Right. What kind of conversion do you see from your welcome series from one-time to monthly? Which is a hard number to maybe pull out of a hat.
Yeah, I'm terrible with them. So I'm not going to say a number.
Follow-up. Yeah, that's a good follow-up.
Yeah, it's a good follow-up. I would say I right now, and it's not the purpose of our welcome series, the conversion rate's not that high there. It's more to prime them. We're really we're telling them about who we are, what we do, and we're waiting for a bit to do it. But that's also where our telemarketing comes into play. And I think telemarketing has like a massive response rate there.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question, can you tell us a bit about the e-commerce shop as an acquisition channel? Do you find they convert to regular donors?
I think it's a nice addition to what you do. We don't find too many of those people becoming monthly donors. But to me, like where there is a very niche audience that will only give to you on
Right.
that. So it's having that as an option because
Yeah.
they don't want to give a donation in another way. And then there's the features of like the e-cards that make it more
Yeah.
interesting for them.
And I think it's kind of one of those things where it's a pretty small commit to get it built out. And then it's pretty evergreen. Like once it's done, maybe you're updating a product here and there, but these are symbolic gifts. It's not like you're managing an inventory and dealing with SKUs and all that kind of thing. So I think that makes it a lot easier to set up.
It is. Yeah, I think exactly because we're not actually, it's a symbolic gift. And like kind of like we went through it last year, we kind of went through the price points to make sure that we were actually being like factual about it. And so we did have to change quite a few of them, but that's something that you should just be doing probably on like on a regular yearly basis.
Makes sense. Thank you so much.